Continuing our Coach's Corner series, we're joined here by Dolphins defensive line coach, Coach Terrell Williams. Coach, thank you for being with us, and how's the offseason going?
It's going great. I'm just really looking forward to getting training camp started here.
Training camp's coming up, but we recently sat down with Coach Coyle last month, who mentioned the talent of the pass rushers and the strength of the interior of the defensive line. Now, I know you weren't here last season, you were with the Raiders, but the team is looking pretty strong on the defensive line. So, what is it like for you to inherit such a talented defensive front?
I tell you what, when I got the job, I think it was February 1st. I was excited about the group, and that was before we signed Sue. So he obviously adds an entirely different dimension. But I think we got quality depth. We got proven players, and we have some young players that I think is going to surprise some people. So I'm looking forward to getting into training camp and start working with these guys again.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the fans as well are looking forward to training camp, but your first time on the field with those guys that you just mentioned was throughout OTAs, throughout mini camp. What was it like being on the field with those guys for the first time and getting to see them in person versus watching some tape on them?
You know what? They all, from Sue to Wade to Olivier Vernon to Derek Shelby, all of those guys have a workman-like attitude. Cameron Wake's been all pro, Sue's all pro, and those guys work like they're bottom line guys trying to make the roster. So, as a coach, I mean, you can't be anything but excited about that when you got Pro Bowl caliber players that are working like they're scratching and clawing like they're free agents. So.
Absolutely. So I know you weren't here last season, as we mentioned, but last season, late in the season, the defensive line had an issue or a bit of a challenge stopping the run. And this offseason, the team added a key player, as you mentioned, in Ndamukong Suh, amongst others. But what effect can Suh have on helping to stop that run game?
Well, he's a guy that commands more than one blocker. You can't block Suh in the run game or the pass game with one player. And I mean, it's been proven in his career. So anytime you have a interior lineman that commands a double team in the run game and the pass game, that frees up the linebackers, that frees up other guys on the defensive line. So he'll have a big impact on this football team.
Well, you mentioned other interior linemen, and Sue's recently reunited with his former teammate C.J. Mosley, who the Dolphins most recently signed. How excited are you to have Mosley here added to this group?
CJ's a guy that I believe is going in his 11th year. He's been through the battles. He's played a lot for Detroit. He's been Jacksonville, Minnesota. In 11 years, he's been on a few teams, and they played winning football last year in Detroit. They stopped the run. They affected the quarterback together. So anytime you can add a player like C.J. Mosley, the depth, I mean, we just got better when you throw him in there in the interior with Earl Mitchell, our rookie Jordan Phillips, Anthony Johnson. I mean, it'll be a competitive training camp.
Now, you just mentioned the depth of the defensive line, of course, Earl Mitchell, A.J. Francis, Anthony Johnson, again, rookie Jordan Phillips. How important is it to have depth at that position?
My a coach I had, my position coach in college actually, Cliff Yoshida, used to always say, he'd walk around and say depth equals leverage. And, finally you ask him, what are you talking about? He said, well, the more depth I have, the more leverage I have against you guys. So if you're not performing, then we'll get rid of you. So I think anytime you look around the room and you have quality depth, every guy knows that they can't make it. So each guy's fighting, scratching, clawing just to have an opportunity to play. So again, it'll be an exciting training camp for us, a competitive training camp.
Absolutely. And once again, we're speaking with Dolphins defensive line coach Terrell Williams as part of our Coach's Corner series. And I wanted to talk about Olivier Vernon and Cam Wake for a minute with you. So two very talented pass rushers. What is your vision for them in 2015?
Hit the quarterback. It's plain and simple. One of the things I've always done since I've been in this league is I always make a video of the top pass rushers, and Cam and OV were guys that I studied along with Sue, and I watched those guys and watched them grow as rushers and studied them. And now they're all in the same room, so I'm really excited. But to me, Olivier Vernon's a guy that's going to make a huge jump. I see what he's done, what he was able to do during the OTAs and the mandatory mini camp. I think the fans will be really excited with what OV and Cam put on tape. So.
Well, I know that we're all excited to watch those guys coming off the edge, but two other guys on the edge, Terrence Fidei and Derek Shelby, what do you envision them, or how do you see them progressing coming this fall?
They're going to push Cam and OV. I mean, I love Cam, I love OV, but we're trying to create competition. So Fidei and Shelby are guys that could start on a lot of football teams. So again, you're talking about the way I look at it. We have 4 starters at defensive end, and not many teams can say that. So we got work to do, but I'm excited with our roster right now.
I know that everybody's excited, and once again, we're speaking with Dolphins defensive line coach Terrell Williams here as part of our Coach's Corner series. And now, as a defensive line coach, what kind of mentality do you like your line to have?
We just want to go and attack people. You can't. It's not not to knock another position, but it's not like being a punter or a kicker, and it's a violent position, and they got to have an attack mentality, a mentality that they're not going to be stopped one-on-one. They got to be double, triple teamed for an offense to stop them, and if they do that, then the next guy makes the play. So I think my mentality is you got to attack, you got to be aggressive, you got to be physical. It's a violent position. It's not a it's just one of those things that you got to be violent and nasty to play that position. And I know Sue has it. I know Cam has it. I know OV has it. All of those guys have to have that mentality, or you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it in our room. I can tell you that. So that's kind of how I view it.
I know there's a lot of youth there at that position as well, along with the veterans. Are the veterans doing a good job instilling that mentality in the younger players?
Yeah, and that was important to me coming in and when we signed Sue, because I hadn't been around him, so I really didn't know a lot about him other than he's a great player. But I've been really encouraged with the way he's been working with the young guys. Same thing with Cam. When they're not in during practice, they're on the sideline talking and coaching up the young guys. So that makes my job a lot easier as a coach now.
All right, well, finally, Coach, we mentioned training camp a few times here, and how excited are you to see the guys going full contact, not hitting the quarterbacks, of course, but down there in the trenches with their pads on?
Well, it's the OTAs and the mandatory mini camp and all the off-season program, it serves its purpose, learning the defense, being around each other. But now when the pads come on, you kind of find out guys start to separate themselves from each other. When you walk in our room, everybody's about the same height, same weight, same arm length, same shoe size. They're all about the same, but the pads is what separates those guys in that room. So I'm looking forward to seeing all those guys compete and see who rises to the top.
Well, I know that we're all looking forward to that, and enjoy the rest of your off season. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
All right, thank you.